My name is Craig Rickard. I'm 47 years old, been in the Woodlands for 22 years. Never run for public office. My dad came through the city council ranks in some of the towns that we grew up in, and so I've been putting yard signs out since I was a kid. So part of this is fun for me, doing what my dad did. I'm married I've been married for 23 years to Elizabeth, and I've got 4 sons. One's in the U.S. Navy. He's a submariner. He's a nuclear operator on the USS Pennsylvania. Very proud of him. I got a boy in the Lone Star College taking some business classes, and then a junior and a freshman at College Park. And they're in the Marine Corps JROTC, so they might end up going the military route. So really proud of them. I own 3 properties in the Woodlands. 3 of them are on Mud 47. So what really triggered me was my friend that voted for the $4.3 million to go to this development on 1488 to prep the land for the developer. So, and Laura Norton's a good friend of mine. She's the godmother to my 4th son. So we were neighbors. So she threw my hat in the ring with Dr. Shelley. And then the next day I met Gordy and Bruce and they started getting exposed to it. So this has really been a month-long adventure so far. I'm self-employed. I'm a headhunter. I own Westcott, Washington. So we're small and we're boutique, so we specialize primarily in the oil and gas business. So we move people around from service companies and operators, and it's a fun little business. But I thought, I've got 20-something years left in me, and I could sit here and run on the hamster wheel, or I could make a difference. And so as I heard more and more stories about things that were going on, I realized that I was the uninformed. I voted against incorporation, and I realized that there were I was misinformed and lazy, and there's a whole bunch of me's out there in the Woodlands. And so I thought, let's make it run. So I consulted with the wife, and she said, go for it. So drinking from a fire hose, my style of communication is direct, frank, and factual. So I don't pull any punches. I was with HR this morning, and I just said, listen, I don't have aspirations of being the president. I think we got some problems in our communities, and my message to residents in this last couple of weeks is, what do you want this thing to look like in the next 50 years? So that's really my platform. I don't take any money from the developer. I don't take any money from the Preserve the Woodlands PAC, and I won't. I think it skews the views. And quite frankly, anybody that I think can kind of buy my favor. And on the township board, it doesn't look like there's not a whole lot we can do anyway. We can influence a lot of decisions, but at the local level, we got fire, waste management, governance, and parks. So I just want to give back and learn, and there's an altruistic side of me that I think is surfacing, where I realize there's a lot of problems, and could really. I went to Kingwood High School, so I graduated in '93, and so my folks still had the house when the annexation went through the city of Houston. So that's near and dear to my heart, is the fear of annexation from Conroe or Houston, and I know a little bit about how Houston runs too, and so we know that they need some money. So I'll stop there.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sure.
In the general part of the questionnaire, do you think the Woodlands should become a city or remain unincorporated? You had mentioned that I believe that if voters were presented with well-researched options, solid planning incorporation would have been a good option, which you touched on. You also said, I don't know the time frame, but would assume it would be beyond the next 5 years or so because the deal with Houston seems to be working. Or you talk about not being absorbed by City of Houston.
Yeah, that's right. The sales tax off the mall seems to be keeping them at bay for the time being.
Yeah. Okay. All right. DJ.
Maybe start over there. I don't live in the township, so I don't have any dog in this fight about that. But as a person who lives in the county, and whose county taxes do go towards helping the Woodlands and all the other areas, what would you say to non-Woodlands people, and how your race and your office can influence or affect the taxes for the county people?
Great question. I see a disjointed county. I see these regional studies over mobility, and TxDOT does whatever they want or whatever they think they need to do. It's just this. To me, we're like an immature little town. that needs to, that at least at the county level, I would try, I'll get to try to answer that correctly. I think that there's some influence as an elected official where we could bring people to the table or call people out if things aren't happening across the region, at the state level down. So that's what I would try to do, is to try to create some collaboration, drain the river, find the rocks, to run a Kaizen event and see where the money's flowing and who's being difficult in the best interest of the county and the region, really. Mm-hmm. And because, Harris County is a part of this election too, so with Creekside Park. So, to me, if you don't look at it holistically, you're missing stuff.
Okay, can I do a follow-up to that?
Sure.
Traffic.
Mm.
The Woodlands is huge, traffic-wise,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed in one of the questionnaires it was about the plans of the developer to put in more apartment complexes, which is going to bring, every tenant has at least 5 cars and 15 kids, it seems like,
Mm-hmm.
and they all have cars. And so it just balloons out of control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What can the township do to help control that?
I don't think they can do anything. I mean, there's no, other than making phone calls and trying to bring people to the table. They've got the 4 responsibilities, and that's it.
Wow.
So I think that I think the squeaky wheel probably gets the grease, and so if you can create enough of a ruckus, I think the a lot of those mobility. If you look at the source of the mobility problems, it's this high density that's coming through, and that's what gets my goat, because we as residents are at a crucial time. Let's say in the next 5 to 10 years to shape what the Woodlands is going to look like, and we all know what 1960 looks like. And clearly, Woodlands Parkway, that's happening. And barely any of the residents even know about it. So that's in my slogan, I'm running on transparency, communication, marketing, just telling people what's going on.
Can I circle back around to that? Do you think the voters got an honest message in the incorporation election? Howard Hughes and Preserve the Woodlands spent $1 million to defeat that.
Absolutely, they did not. And I did not get a clear message. They are very good. I am impressed with how they can pull the wool over so many eyes. And that's really where I see this thing going. It's me against the developments or developers, because they clearly can. They've got the funds and they've got a lot at stake. If you're going to spend, I was looking at the 2021 PAC, the Preserve the Woodlands PAC. They gave $450,000 to that PAC last year. So that's, and until I chose to run, I'd never seen any of those figures. So as I'm block walking, when I got them on, I get their cell phone number and I send them a Howard Hughes investor presentation. I said, look at slides 4 and 5.
Yep.
And then the yard sign magically goes up. So I don't think it's going to be a numbers game.
Sure it is.
But this is not a hard sale.
Okay.
You just took my question.
Whoops.
Well, maybe I'll ask it in a different way because I am set on that. I am a resident of Woodlands.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a dog in this hunt. Where do you think the township went wrong? And maybe that's not the right. What do you think the township could do better on their messaging to sell this to the voters?
Incorporation?
Yeah, incorporation. Sorry. Yeah.
I've been vocal and critical of the website, just in general, as a 20-year user to get information. So I don't think it's a website issue, but I think you can start to look around at how they message to the residents, and it's not effective. So I think, that's probably, and that could be something that I attack as my first project, is just analyzing how people want to receive information. Me as the uninformed voter last year, what I heard was Gordy wants to be mayor, and they bought $5 million, that GE Betts building, and they're trying to put up a city hall. It was all, and I don't even know where I'm getting that information from. It just got in my head. So somehow they're getting that message out into the public. So I feel now in September of 22, it was rushed and it wasn't marketed very well. I think the numbers are great, but I know the impression I get is that they want to get those federal funds, the COVID funds, and that was kind of what sped it up.
Mhm.
So I think that a 2-year term. I'm just out there spreading the gospel, just talking and being smarter with how we talk about not just the idea of incorporation, but our parks and of special events at the 9/11 at North Shore Park last night. There's all this stuff that the township's doing that nobody knows about. And your tax dollars are going for these programs within the township. Like, come on, let's get the word out. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, I guess how's it going to get marketed? Then I know we just from what you said, it's a few years out, but how are we going to market this better next time to get this sold?
It's probably digital. So it's probably social media. To me, I think having big newsletters would be great. If we could capture a whole bunch of emails, people that actually are going to read it, and if you tell me relevantly and quickly what I need to know about the town I live in, I'll read it. So email campaigns, it could be text campaigns. I think the township has to be objective with what we're reporting. So we don't want to show a side, but I think if you present facts consistently, believably, people will buy in.
Okay.
Incorporation was a non-issue for a long, long time. And then a couple of years ago, it became a big deal, harsh feelings on both sides, and even still. And it seems to me like the people in the Woodlands think they are a city. They don't know the difference. In fact, if you drive around, you see all these signs, the best city in America. Now,
I never thought about that.
Well, yeah, they're all, we passed
I never thought about it.
out here. So is it going to take some sort of a crime spree or interference from the county or the sheriff or somebody to make people understand it? And is that why you say it's going to take a few years for them to see it?
I think whatever happens to Woodlands Parkway, I think that's going to be a trigger point. Because that's part of my old neighborhood. I was down there putting signs out last night, and there's a realtor on that, and she's like, who do I need to call? So I'm pointing everybody up to James Nowak. Like, just if you want some answers, try giving him a call. So yeah, I mean, it's it's kind of like give them enough rope. Like if there's things that they need to discover, they need that intellectual curiosity. Because when that realtor knew that she had something on the line, because she works that neighborhood hard, so now she's making some phone calls. But I fall back to the fat and happy in the Woodlands.
Yeah.
Median income's good. I grew up in a small town in Iowa. Like, there's lots of pain, and they don't have any money for anything. But we got plenty of money, and everything's working great. So why would you dig any deeper? So I don't know I don't know when it happens, but I think that the developer with shareholders, and let's say he's trying mowing down Grogan's Mill or something, I think people will start perking up when that high density stuff comes in.
How long will it take the developer to exhaust all his high density options and just pack up and leave?
I heard something that they bought like 300,000 acres out of Scottsdale. Have you guys heard any of this? Something out of the Phoenix area. They got a big piece of land. So maybe shareholders, and I watch their stock. I mean, they're not performing very well. So maybe you get a new CEO, not Jim
Coleman.
Yeah, not him, but at the executive level.
Yeah, they'll move on.
So they have to start building here pretty soon, huh? Get some tenants in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Are you, Pat? Are you next? Or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in the, I guess, still general area, what your view of the positive and negative aspects of the township's current governance structure? You mentioned, as I learn more about roads and water, it seems like residents should have more control of that for the future. I'm becoming suspicious of the way our tax dollars are being spent at the county and mud levels. And then you said, from the uninformed citizen level, I think that the Woodlands doesn't need to control those aspects of their lives. What do you mean?
Let me make sure I'm.
It's question number 2, under general category,
Okay.
about halfway down.
Let me make sure I. About halfway down. I didn't print it off correctly.
You looking at this thing?
Oh, okay, I got it. From the uninformed citizen level, the Woodlands needs to control those aspects of their lives once.
Doesn't need to control those aspects of their lives. I wasn't sure what you meant there.
Oh, okay. As long as the water bills are tolerable and the power stays on and I can kind of move around and it might be a little bit busy during rush hour, I don't think the average resident cares. Because I just don't think there's any pain.
Right. They could buy their way out of poverty, basically.
Right. Yeah. If they were hand to mouth, they got $10 extra every month for food, they'd pay attention.
Right. Okay. Just below that, you said when I discuss mobility and water, it seems to get a lot of attention from folks that really begin to think about the importance of those topics.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the Woodlands looks like in the coming decades with respect to mobility?
I think that it gets close to turn into 1960.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
Woodlands
research,
Parkway?
Woodlands Parkway, and I think research gets jammed, like this 242 widening up here. I mean, it's just going to jam people at 1488 and 242.
So what do you think about 242? There seems to be two sections, one east of that to 45 and the other west to 1488.
Yeah.
I
don't have any comment on the east of 45. I'm sure they're going to be dealing with their own congestion issues. But the west side of it, I don't think widening 242 is a good idea.
Okay.
I think the more incentives, I mentioned the loop idea, the 2978 to 1488, to me, building loops around cities makes sense.
So how does that look? If you got 1488 kind of
Yeah.
on the north side, 2978 on the west side,
Yeah.
what's the south side? And I guess the east side would be 45.
Maybe 2920. I mean, that's what I've heard kicked around. I don't know if it's feasible, but I'm falling into this like protect our turf mode.
What about 99?
Yeah,
How about that?
yeah, that's a good point. I'm not a road guy. I'm just a driver, so I don't know when it comes to planning roads what is viable, but I'm concerned about ways that they're increasing traffic through our community.
So they just widened 2978. Are you talking about further widening
Yeah.
that?
Getting you to 45. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said
No,
2920.
2978 north south on the west
More,
side.
yes, wider on 2978. I know it's a nightmare living out there. I've got friends that have retail on that road. It's a mess. But we're always, it seems like we're always doing everything in arrears in Texas. You slap up the schools in the neighborhoods, and then the traffic is always an afterthought.
Right.
So I guess that's what I mean by getting people to the table, so that we at least know what we're doing regionally or at the county level, so that we're not having these headaches.
Okay. Bill?
This is a people question.
Okay.
I've run into lots of people over the last few years. You kind of hit on a main challenge that I think we have. And I'm interested in your thoughts and how we can navigate, maneuver around for the sake of communication, like we talked about earlier, because you're absolutely right, especially in the Woodlands. Now, I live in Conroe, but it's beginning to get as bad as the Woodlands as far as a lot of the folks, we can buy our way out of poverty. So we don't care. Change my taxes every year, $10 a month, I don't care. And so those issues, people don't understand the ramifications of a long-term problem. So my question really is, and I toy with this myself, how do we find the trigger points and then commute so that we have people that will listen, so that these messages that are the right messages are actually heard. Because until we're able to do that, we won't make changes. So that's the challenge I'm asking. What do you think about how do we trigger our people, not only in the Woodlands but Montgomery County, because we are one big family eventually.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, y'all are the biggest family.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Woodlands is the biggest family. You get the biggest boot. Okay, but that's quickly changing.
Yeah, right.
And so we have got to learn how to work together, how to love one another, and how do we trigger each other so that we can force the residents to want to know what's going on in the future.
I think first step is just listening. The lady that I showed the Howard Hughes presentation to, she called me back and said, bring a yard sign. Her issue was SJRA doesn't get the silt out. She says that hasn't been dredged in 10 years. And she had water up to her patio, and it was not a big event. It was just one of these gully washers. And so I mean, to me, it's just listening. So it's being available, and so I've cleared a lot for the next 2 years to do that.
Right.
So I don't have to go downtown. Like if they, and I'm big on cell phones. I mean, I'm in my profession. I mean, I'm on the phone all the time, and that's what I want. I want to be a guy that can listen. I am a guy that can listen. I want to be able to listen to the residents and then bring it. And then if we've got difficulty, how do we get, let's say, with the county commissioner? How do we get creative? And I don't owe anybody anything. So if this is at the consequence of the resident, then we got to bust some heads.
Okay. Well, just kind of a follow up. Technology is an amazing tool when properly engaged. Do you have any ideas or concepts or tools that are out there that we could employ so that we begin a process of connecting to people who don't know they need to be connected, and we could inadvertently get them connected, and then hopefully over time really engage them, because all of a sudden when people find out what's going on around here, it just makes them mad. It's just we don't have enough people that know.
Yeah. And ways to disseminate information. One idea that I've got in my campaign. So my wife she used to work at a church, but she doesn't work there anymore. So I've got her full time. She hates that. But
church or not? No.
Because I'm not a good boss with a spouse. Anyway, and my recruiting business. I was working. I had a nursing home client during COVID, which was very, very difficult to recruit for nursing homes. I used a text messaging software called Haymarket, Heymarket, and we would take large volumes of cell phone numbers, and it's online texting. So instead of you trying to figure out how to do all this stuff in your phone, it's a database, and we've got names and numbers, and so it can say, "Hello, blank Sally Sue. There's a township meeting this weekend. You should come because we're going to talk about this, 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 and this." So I'm building in the campaign, I'm building a database. It's all in Google Sheets. And so everybody that's participating with us, we're all using the same data. And then I'm going to parse that data for the campaign and put it into Haymarket. It's really cheap. And so we're just going to say, hey, polls open. And we did it for thousands of nurses and CNAs and RNs and stuff for these nursing homes. So that's one idea of using technology.
I love texting. I think
texting is where it's
very
at.
powerful, and it's the latest thing, and it's going to be good for another 2 years, and then something else will be out. But right now, it's powerful.
It's powerful. The Pizza Hut. I get on social media if I'm bored, but if I get text messages, especially from a number that I've saved, I'm looking at it.
I want to talk to you more about that
Okay.
at some point.
Sure. Happy to.
Where are we? Dennis? Or
Okay.
DJ, sorry.
Um,
Billy was on a roll there.
Oh, I got plenty, but
he brought up some,
I'll give you my card. We'll talk after this is over.
he brought up a point that we've been discussing at the Tea Party and things like that with the flooding and subsidence and well water versus surface water and all that. And if you build out more roads, more concrete, you're going to get more flooding, because engineers think it works well on paper. It doesn't necessarily work well in reality. Sorry.
All right, DJ. Certain engineers, maybe, not civil engineers.
I taught those recruiters when they were in 5th grade, and you could tell, oh, I'll be an engineer.
Yeah.
But how does the township plan to deal with those issues in the coming years? Because because it's going to get worse.
I don't know the answer to that because I'm new to the township.
Is that going to have to be a coordination with the county commissioner? Because they are the ones that deal with the roads and the flooding
Yeah.
issues, right? And just figure out all that stuff.
I mean, to me, I don't know if task force is the right word, but let's say that's what it is. And we've got commissioners and we've got the MUDs and we've got SJRA and we're all sitting around a table trying to figure. So I love that. I mean, I'm all about collaboration. I just want to fix. I'm a guy. Like we fix things. So that's no offense to the ladies, but you know, I mean, like when you have a fight with the husband and he wants to fix it. I'm learning how to shut my mouth more with my wife. She's trained me.
We all are.
Yeah, but I mean, so that's what, and I like to. I am not a maintenance guy. I'm an entrepreneur, so I like to build stuff. I like to look at something and go, I did that, or not necessarily for pride, but just to say like, hey, listen, I got all these heads in a room. And so while you guys are dragging your feet over here, we did this and this and this. I mean, to me, and Mike Turco too, I heard that name last Monday. I know him. So, I mean, I don't know if I have any influence with him, but those are the kind of guys, like, if you don't show up, we're going to talk to newspapers.
Is that how the citizens, because when, like you said, this one neighbor, if the water's at their patio door,
Yeah.
they're going to get concerned about that.
Yeah, they should.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Well-
almost too late then.
Well, I can tell you, I won't name names, but that $4.3 million to that 1488 deal, there's an effort to try to get those ditches dredged to redirect some of that money. I don't know how public that is. I don't know a lot of people are going to watch this, but that's the kind of stuff. Like, listen, I'm not a punch the clock guy. I'm about being efficient. What's the task? What are we trying to do? And that can be abrasive to some people, especially. So, but I'm not a sugarcoat guy.
That's good.
I
Tell
wasn't.
it like it is.
I wasn't put on earth to put my 30 years in and get a pension. I'm like a swing for the fence guy.
So maybe I'm getting here a little granular and a little bit too far ahead, but it's kind of near and dear to my heart. Talking about the MUDs, you get elected in your own, the township board and corporation happens. Let's just look at a crystal ball. And maybe you haven't thought about this, but I'll throw this out there. Have you looked at the MUDs, and is your thought to keep them separate at this point and separate operating MUDs, or would you bring them under the municipal umbrella, basically dissolve the MUDs and bring them under city control? Have you thought about
I
that?
haven't thought about it.
At all?
Yeah, I prefer not to comment. I've not been on a mud board. I just don't know how they work. I don't know if it makes sense for the resident.
Oh, yeah. The MUDs would basically dissolve and all of those assets would roll into
Yeah,
the city would then
run like a city
them.
water
Yeah.
department.
Right.
I mean, I've lived in cities where they have a city water department, so I don't know if they work efficiently. That to me is where can we save the most money? What makes the most sense at any department level? You know, the sheriff's contract, if it still makes sense. There's nothing wrong with outsourcing things. I mean, businesses do it all the time.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to be eyes wide open here, listen and learn, try to keep my mouth shut, and
2 years, 1 mouth. Right?
yeah, exactly. Just I try to know what I don't know.
Good answer. Okay. Anything else?
Okay. Traffic and property taxes are two issues that affect everybody and they affect every government at every level. And we don't seem to make any progress on any of them. All we do, the government spends money, spends more money, nothing gets fixed. And in a lot of cases, for instance, in traffic, a lot of cases the fix is free. And even in this area, we have a lot of traffic and a lot of road rage that is just created because of poor signage. So Woodlands Parkway and some others, they have signs. And one that always bothers me is the sign that says right or left lane must turn right or left. Everybody jumps out of the lane. It turns out that lane doesn't even exist yet until another 100 yards up the road. And there are other ones, the turning lines, the arrows on curves and things, that could fix a lot of problems. So whose job is it to fix those problems? And even now, 1488, I guess that's a state road, huh?
Yeah, as far as I know.
So it means, who fixes the ones in the woodlands and what influence do you have on things like 1488?
I believe in my case it would be James Nowak would handle anything road related. As
Does he
I
do
understand
the
it.
striking the signs?
I don't know the answer to that. I assumed he did. Is that true?
I don't know.
I
don't
thought
know.
numbered
He's
signs
not my
were
man.
Oh, okay.
TxDOT.
Yeah, he does.
Only state roads are done by Texas.
Yeah, numbered
Right.
roads are TxDOT and named roads
the
are
county
the
must do
county.
County
County
takes care of
takes
everything,
care of most
except on the north side, that's Charlie Riley.
Mhm.
Right, we just have which commissioner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harper's.
Because they actually have three in Woodlands, right?
Yeah, Harper's Landing's got the.
Well, let's talk about property tax then, since we've
Okay.
got another minute.
Yep.
The two.
You couldn't develop a worse system than the system that Texas and our locals have right now.
Mhm.
Somebody that's got a nice house here pays $5,000 a year for one person,
Mhm.
cumulative tax.
Mhm.
Somebody that's got 10 people in an apartment pays $100 a piece.
Mm.
So what other kind of method for funding the government is there? Is there some way that you can charge administration fee, toilet fee, head count, anything other than a property tax, which is really just an income tax? Instead of,
Right, yeah,
instead of
they're
earned
gonna- yeah,
income, it's
yeah,
saved income,
yeah.
that you tax the same saved income every year until the government takes 100% of it.
Yeah.
So it would apply to this Woodlands Township just like it would apply to the state or the county.
I mean, I've read, but again, not a politician, so I don't know public policy, but the sales tax idea looks pretty good to me.
Consumption, you know.
If you're rich and you're buying expensive boats, expensive cars, it kind of seems like you could spread out a little bit over there. And as a recruiter, I love to advertise the fact that we don't have income tax, but they're going to get you out of your property taxes. So I'm with you. I completely understand the property taxes. I don't have any idea how you fix the tax code.
Yeah, Woodlands doesn't have any sales tax, or Woodlands has a piece of it now, don't they?
I think they get a couple percent.
Or a
On
piece of
sales.
1%, yeah. Most of that, I think every area around here is at the max, 8.25%.
Right.
So somebody's got to hire a lobbyist to
Yeah.
go talk to legislators.
I'm ignorant to a lot of at the state level how property. My general belief is that government's going to waste money, and they're going to spend every nickel in that budget every year because I've done business with some state agencies, and so I get it. You know, I mean that's the or maybe not agencies, MD Anderson in particular because they're part of the UT system. Gosh, I better not name that, but it's amazing how there's ways around spend in government. And it drives me nuts, but I've never been in a position to try to influence or fix it.
Can the Woodlands charge sticker fees, registration for cars and things like that?
To me, I don't want to raise taxes on residents, period. So the sales and hotel tax to me sounds really, really good. I mean, my goal is to stay on the track that Gordy and Bruce and Dr. Shelley have been on. Because looking at the numbers, it looks pretty darn good.
Who all shares in the hotel and sales tax?
I believe that it's all in the front of the Woodlands. It's all in
The county doesn't get it? I mean, surely the county and state get a piece of it, don't they?
I don't know the answer to that. I assumed it went to the township. I don't know how it's broken up.
Yeah, and that was one of the issues with the incorporation. As a corporation, you get some amount, and as unincorporated, you get a different amount. Okay.
Yeah, because I believe that there was an additional to try to staff the police force, try to build the police force, and that frightened me, and I'm sure frightened a lot of voters when you see another sticker of tax.
Okay,
So, do you have a question?
I do have a question.
Surprise.
We were born and raised in Texas and in Houston. And we've seen lots of shopping malls come and go. What happens to the township budget when the Woodlands Mall goes under? Because it's going to go under. Look at Greenspoint.
Good point.
Look at Alameda Mall.
Yep.
Look at all of those.
Yeah,
So what's going to happen?
Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, you turn into Greenspoint. I mean, you're gonna have a 1960 flowing down, your big artery, and you're getting high density. I lived on the west side of Houston when Katrina happened. Well, actually, I was out of there, but I had friends that were still in that kind of that Briar Forest area, and they moved all those. I mean, so I've seen neighborhoods get trashed.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another good reason is how do you replace sales and hotel if they start, or if say you have another catastrophic event like a COVID and your hotel consumption tax goes down. And best I can tell, they are, especially in this budget cycle, are being very responsible to keep good reserves and still lower taxes.
Well, you know, with the inflation, you look around at all the strip centers as well as the mall. There's a lot of empty vacant buildings, and they're still building more, and they're still vacant.
I'd say a couple. I don't know how much time I've got, but just as a consumer, I sat in the sauna with Tim Wells at Villa and asked him why in the world is Cochran's Crossing, like the Korean donut guy's gone, Skeeter's is gone, the bike shop's gone. I'm giving the list, and I won't reveal his answer, but it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. So Grogan's concerns me, Panther Creek concerns me, Cochran's, because the resident pays the price. And we go to Conroe to go eat, so we don't have a $20 hamburger.
Mm.
So it's just the residents right now are paying the prices for what I perceive to be greed.
Yeah.
A friend of mine his wife opened a yoga shop in Sterling Ridge or whatever that is by the HCB. That rent was incredible. I mean, you had to sell a lot of yoga to cover that rent, and that went bust too. So I mean, it's in the residents, the conveniences that we should have aren't there. So it aggravates me. The other thing that really aggravates me is the bike paths to nowhere. Because in Kingwood, we had, I coming from Iowa too, I was like, this is a paradise. Like paths that went under roads and bridges like what George Mitchell put up on Grogan's. Well, now, like you'll have a corner that has this handicap ramp and there's nothing else there. Like, who's designing it? So I don't think that I don't even know if I can get into the pedestrian and bike friendly piece because I'm sure that's another hot topic. But just as a guy with kids on bikes, who's designing this pedestrian system? Anyway.
We have horse trails like that. They go nowhere now.
In the forest, in the national forest?
Well,
Or
in Magnolia, yep.
Oh,
In
Where Fish
Magnolia,
Creek is now.
Fish Creek,
oh
We used to
okay.
cross that.
where everybody wants to put
Oh,
more
yeah.
traffic on.
Yeah.
And it's destroyed
So-
really neighborhoods.
We got about 2 more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've talked incorporation and mobility. Just to touch on a couple things that you were just talking about, bicycles and pedestrians and connectors. You said complete the pathway connectors. Is that what that is? Where you've got the design
Yeah,
where the signal is, but there's nothing there.
That's
to
right.
connect with?
That's right.
Okay.
and then continuing like they've funded that path down Kirkendall now. So just investing more, give more thought and more time and money into outdoor walking and biking.
So, speaking of biking, then, are you in favor of taking existing roadways and carving out some of that roadway to give to bikers right away? Or
Yes, if it makes sense. But if
how does it make sense? What does make it
if
sense?
we know that it's going to be widened, and so all this money you spent to keep the bikes safe off of the roads goes away because you're going to have to do road construction anyway, then don't spend the money. But if it improves the safety and the use of bikes on our roads, then I think we need to look at it. I don't know if every project makes sense financially, but if enough people are going to benefit, that to me is a township function that we can affect.
So who pays for that? Is that the county or is that the Woodlands or?
Great question. I mean,
Bike registration.
I would try to.
Another sticker.
I mean,
That's got covered.
I'm excited to meet James Nowak. Just because I don't know if I put in my response, but my son, we horsed around with trying to get an LED light on Shadow Bend because he almost got hit by a car.
Solid.
And I call, and he was going to get CISD involved, and I just got to run, and then I just quit, which is a little unlike me, but I got tired of it. So I would love to know where there's money that are we getting our share of the 30% that we put into this county.
That's more than that.
And so that to me is hopefully I've projected that on you guys that I'm not afraid to ask that stuff.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about high density movement, and we knew that was going to happen, and I think that was one of those great trigger points that were not talked about near enough in that conversation. Now, reminder: I don't live in the Woodlands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I do. I'm in the Woodlands a lot though because of different things. So, The high density is going to continue because that was their plan anyway.
Mm.
That was their master plan. If you know the company, that's what they do. And that is going to multiply greatly, like was spoken, the problem with traffic. And that's going to continue to be an issue. Do you think there will be another opportunity? And what would it take for this opportunity to come to even have another vote for incorporation?
Yes, I think it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs to happen
Mm-hmm.
because it seems like it's the best decision at this point.
Mhm.
I have no idea the timeline, but I'll bet you it's strongly correlated to the pain and frustration of the residents.
How long do you think the Woodlands can sit and wait and get to such a population point
Mm.
that is going to be unfeasible financially?
I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know enough, and I can't really predict it.
Right.
But I can tell you that I'm going to be listening. And I've seen sections of Houston, like the Upper Kirby and West U, when they're putting those high rises in down there. And I saw the drama and the frustrations and the effort the residents put in. So I know that's real.
Well, I personally think that there's one of the best ways to get some control over the crazy raising spending in the county is to have more cities.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, 85% of this county is unincorporated, and that comes with its own bag of magic.
Yeah.
I personally am an advocate of more city governments within the county
Mm-hmm.
to dilute some things, but to put, like you were talking about earlier, more people engaged in the commonality of the process.
Mm.
So, what would you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. If the city is run efficiently and transparently.
Absolutely.
And I know I was concerned with this new tax rate increase, and you know it's give an inch, they'll take a mile, and that's what I was smelling and feeling, and that was the general vibe in my friend circles. And why would we do it so fast? You know, it was suspicious. So I think that looking at incorporation regularly is smart.
Okay, thank you.
TJ?
I know we're getting close to the time limit, so what would be your top 3 priorities as a director on the township? Is that what they're called, directors?
Yeah.
To immediate hit the floor
First
running.
first 2 years. My first priority is going to be to learn as fast as I can and talk to as many people as I can. So I try to get an audience with Ryan Gable, by the way. I don't want to get distracted. But, you know, I'm like, well, I need to know about the Rand Henderson contract. Like, I just want them some history. So my plan is just to dive in, listen, learn, and shut up. It seems like the communication thing is something that I've got a little bit of expertise in. And it's probably a small enough project to where I think it's not cost prohibitive to look at some solutions to try to get citizens involved. So let's say that's my number 2. This might be under the same vein as the first one, but the mobility thing, to me, it's roads and water. So I know that's the third topic, but the more I understand about the MUDs, I'm working closely with guys like David Smith. Like I want to know where the problems are, what have you dealt with, so that I can make good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to be half-cocked. So I don't know, maybe that's 4 things, but you know, try to be smart and be approachable, be genuine. That I'm not taking a meeting with the resident just because I have to.
But you do plan to be available.
I will be
To
very available. Very available. To me, I'm a crazy extrovert, and I love people. This is like, I'm having a good time. You know, I joked with my wife. I said, Liz, we literally have a whole new set of friends that we didn't have a month ago. Like, it was incredible.
Do you travel much?
No. I build the business around Houston. I mean, a vacation here and there.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I do have out-of-state customers, but I've never had to go visit them.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'll ask one. One of the arguments against incorporation was that there was going to be a big tax increase, and Gordy and that group had said it's not going to be very big because we've sort of been putting money back for this effort.
Mhm.
So if they've actually done that, where is that money now? Is it lost in a slush fund somewhere, or is it still there being held for incorporation, or do you know?
There's 110 million or so in reserves, and 30 or so million of that has to be for the operating budget. So I would answer that with I have faith that the money that they've set aside is enough to get us through potential rough patches in the next 5 years. How that breaks out from the incorporation, the potential to incorporate, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know what would be allocated. I'm under the belief that if we're smart, if we concentrate on lowering taxes every year, if we make sure the township's running efficiently, that's the track I'm going to take.
What is the tax rate right now for township?
We're like 12% of our. Oh, that's a great question. Oh gosh, we just dropped it like 18 cents. I don't know. It's about 12% of the tax bill. That's what I'm going to the residents with.
Well, it was 22 or 3 cents, wasn't it,
Yeah.
2 years ago?
So it's I think they went to 18. Is that right?
22.3, and I think it's gonna stay that way for a couple of years. And then you can't increase more than 2.5% per year after that. So,
I sat through those budget meetings, but it was a blur. But again, it's you're one of those residents where I think I just dropped his name, Bill.
Yes.
Billy.
Billy, yeah.
You know that is he going to fill $10 a month?
Yeah.
And so when you ask me a tax rate, I don't know. I can tell you roughly what I pay on my house.
It doesn't mean I won't complain about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got about 5 minutes left if you wanna go ahead and close out.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the time, and I know that you guys are all volunteers, and I've got a new appreciation for the. I always vote off the Tea Party sheet that I'm given at the polls, but I didn't know behind the scenes what you guys do. I just heard that you do a good job of vetting it and doing your homework. So thanks for keeping it honest out there, and
We didn't go that far.
well, you're keeping some people honest. I won't even share that story, but maybe when the camera's off. It's I'm putting the pieces together over the years about the effect that you guys have had. So thanks. So I want to win, and I'm a hard worker, and I'm going to give it all she's got.
All right, great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right.